thank you everyone who has come to watch the panel on the path towards Sword Knighthood. Again, just as a reminder, I ask that you keep your audio muted and your video off if you are not one of the panelists. That being said, my name is Fuzz. I am out of the Kingdom of Crystal Groves, and I will be your host for today. And I will let the panelists introduce themselves, if you don't mind. Just your name, how far down the path you are, like your order, and then how long you've been playing. And since you all cross game, it can be just in general, or if you just want to do how long you've been fighting in Amtgard, that works as well.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first, Fuzz. My real name is Aaron Neb, and my game name is Kai. I've been fighting since I was like 15, so almost 20 years now. So long time. There you go. You know my age now. I started in Darkon and Dagger here back when I was about 15, and I started playing Amtgard in probably 2009, 2010 era. I've 8th Order of the Warrior in Amtgard, and I was knighted in Darkon and recognized in Dagger. Were there any other questions?
I think you answered them all.
Yeah,
That was it.
very good, thank you.
Awesome.
Cool. I can go. My name is Nate Chop. My game name is Bleys Kintstugi. I have forgotten all of the questions, but I'm going to say, okay, I started fighting or I started playing the game in the end of 2012, so I am almost 9 years in now. I started in Amtgard. I cross game fairly heavily, mostly into mostly into Darkon, and then I go to a lot of large events in Dagger here. I have 8 Orders of the Warrior. I'm pretty positive, although I didn't spot check that before I said that. I think that's all the questions, so I'm gonna say go ahead.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I am Fyxe Firebrand. Y'all don't need my Nuggle name. I've been fighting, I think, for 10 going on 11 years officially. Although technically by Amtgard standards, I'm a year and a half, maybe 2 in, and that's not really counting COVID. That year doesn't count. I think I'm only 6 Orders of the Warrior in, although I've gotten a couple like 2nd and 3rd places at Kingdom tournaments. I just have to get my 1st place to get my 7th. And yeah, I'm a cross gamer. I started in Dagger here. I was knighted through Darkon, and I just love wax and all flavors of it. I think I too answered all the questions.
Yeah, I think so.
You all did. Thank you very much. And I'll just like to extend one last thank you to Dankry Blackwater, who's doing our recording and kind of tech side of things. So thank you to her as well.
Thank you, Dankry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so without further ado, let's get on some of the questions. And this is just, all throughout the question, whoever wants to start, and we'll go from there. So let's start with this. For all of you, what was your introduction into the sword path?
I can go. So I showed up at my first day of Amtgard, and at the end of the day, a warlord / sword knight was there. And I fought him, I'm going to say conservatively about 50 times in a row, and hit him in the leg maybe twice, and just got basically put into the dirt. And because of the way that my brain is broken specifically, I basically was like, yes, this is the shit for me. I think there's like a little bit of a longer story in terms of like the way that I went from that to the actual path, which is like a little bit of a different loop, which I think took about 1 or 2 years to be sort of serious about like training myself like an athlete and maybe coaching myself or having coaches. But like that was my introduction, like just getting the absolute tar beat out of me and being like, yeah, let's do this for like a decade or so, maybe 2. That sounds great.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people that are high into the sword path, Nate, are somewhat broken like that.
Yeah.
It's not that we enjoy losing; it's we enjoy trying to figure out how to not lose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a puzzle.
Um, for me, I got introduced to the sword path. I was already a knight in Darkon, so I'd been fighting for a long time, and I started. I think Will introduced me to Amtgard, and I started going to practices up at Catonsville, circa 2009-10 era. And I think I was introduced via just word of mouth. Like this is a thing that they do. This is like Amtgard's knighthood for sword fighting specifically, whereas in Darkon they don't have a specific knighthood for sword fighting. Knighthood is more generalized. Not sure which one I like more, and like just the that like whether being generalized or specific. But that's for another question, I think.
That's fair.
I have a lot of as far as like just introduction to why I wanted to go down the path. I have a pretty big history just outside of sword fighting in competitive aspects, playing sports growing up. I was super big into martial arts for a long time, and that was before I joined the military. And then being in the military is all about doing stuff better than other people. So I have a long history of really trying to work at challenges and competitive aspects. So this was the thing for me.
I guess for me, I kind of want to piggyback on what Bleys said. My moment of kind of being introduced to Sword Path was showing up to Catonsville practice as a starry-eyed noob and getting the absolute shit beat out of me by Tyriel. And I left practice that day having never gotten my ass beat to that degree, and looking at my best friend Ginger being like, all right, this is what we're doing for all eternity every Tuesday. And we just started showing up to that practice for like a year straight. That's how actually I became involved with Note Quarter. But it wasn't until I think like 2.5, maybe 3 years ago that I started to get a little bit more introduced to Amtgard as a game, and kind of seeing like this warlord culture. I'd always had friends who were warlords, and I knew, at least as a cross gamer, that is like the epitome of sword prowess. Like that is something that I think is respected across all the games that I play. Like if you're a warlord, people in Dagger here know that it's a badass. So being the competitive person I am, and kind of getting to the point in my fighting career, I was like, I think I can do that thing. I hope I can, at least, but that specific delineation didn't happen until like 2.5, 3 years ago. But I've always been competitive, and I like trying to be a better version of myself, trying to be a better fighter. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So kind of going off of your introduction to the path for you all, what do you feel was your biggest stumbling block on your journey down the path so far?
Oof, I've had a lot.
it's a long road.
So I think so specifically in Amtgard Sword Knight, I think I'll well, let me back up a little bit. Let me talk about more just fighting in general, like stumbling blocks and fighting itself. Like I said, I didn't start playing Amtgard until 2010 and started actually phone fighting, early 2000s. So a lot of my stumbling blocks were outside, I would say outside interference. Not that that's a bad thing. I think, you have life in general, and those are stumbling blocks to the things that you find fun. I find phone fighting a lot of fun. So, like I said, I was big into martial arts before coming in here. So I did martial arts alongside doing phone fighting before I joined the military. I joined the military for 4 years. So, I basically took 4 years off of phone fighting pretty early on in my career. And ended up doing a little bit, in the different places I traveled to, but nothing really serious. And then after coming back, you have other life stumbling blocks. I was trying to go to college. I was trying to develop my career. I started dating my wife, my now wife, back in 2010. So I was doing a lot of different things at the same time. That can feel pretty overwhelming, both looking back on it now and at the time. But it was all worth it in the end. I enjoyed doing all of those things at once. You know, I was
I think
going.
you're succeeding.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to college during the day and working midnights. So there was a and trying to fight at Tuesday practice, you know, and then doing other like side practices and going to events on the weekend. So I was doing what I would say was overwhelming, but it kept me busy too. I didn't really have a moment to sit in my house and think about what I was doing and how overwhelmed I was. I was just doing it, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Hell yeah, very fierce.
So that's like a bunch of my stumbling blocks all slapped into, you know, a large, you know, you can call them, I don't know if I would I would call them stumbling blocks if you were talking specifically about fighting and getting better. But, you know, this is, you have to also understand that this is a game, it's a hobby. It may not always be the priority thing for you. I do look at a lot of my other life choices, and those things are priorities.
For sure.
So to say that there's someone to say there's that those life priorities are stumbling blocks to my fighting career is weird to say. I don't know if I would say that,
Oh,
but
I understand what you're
but-
saying, bro. For sure.
so those are all a bunch of my life stumbling blocks all the way my getting the super awesome Kai that I could be if I didn't have a career, didn't go to college, didn't go in the military, and didn't do anything outside of sword fighting.
Sword alternate
And-
timeline, Sword
yeah.
Knight Kai.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I would choose me Kai over that guy any day.
That's, I mean, you can't ask for anything else other than that. When presented with an alternate timeline version of yourself, you should always want to choose yourself, right?
Right?
That's
right.
awesome.
Be the you that you are. Yeah, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. To dovetail a little bit off of what you're saying there, I think that probably I'm a little bit of the same way in that probably the largest like digression that I've taken from fighting in general was around the time that I was developing my career. But it ties so heavily back into fighting because I learned how to develop a career from the methods that I taught myself through film fighting. So like I was able to figure out like how to look for jobs and how to like develop skills and how to do all these things, or at least the process, the sort of like hypothesized to resolution process that I was using in the job hunt. I was doing because I learned them from Wax, which is one of the only maybe 2 or 3 things that have ever really made sense to my brain in the entire 34 years that I've lived my life, which would be climbing, Wax, and maybe a little bit of League of Legends. But like nothing ever really clicked in the way that Wax clicked, and I never really stuck with anything as long as I did. And so there was a moment where I just sort of saw this crystal clear delineation of, yeah, you just do it like you did this, but you do it over here. And with that, I built a career, and now I have a career, which I didn't have 4 years ago. Like in the path, I didn't have that. And there was with a career and with a job and with life stress, it builds up, and you have to sort of make choices, like Aaron is saying, to preserve your greater mental health and not want to walk into the sea, which is the personal thing that I think sometimes when I wake up in the morning, it's like I'm just going to walk straight to the sea and go swimming.
Oh, buddy.
And so yeah, like that's the biggest like sort of break that I've taken from the path, as it were. But it is also like super tied up into the same thing. Like you're using the same processes, you're learning just a different thing, and it's very, very helpful, I think, to be able to cross-pollinate those skills.
Hell yeah. It's not answering the question, but I do want to actually piggyback on both of you guys, what you're saying. I've definitely found that becoming Fyxe as a persona and like some of the qualities that I've put into that have kind of like rubbed off on who I am as a person. Because when I first started LARPing, I was actually really shy and soft spoken, and I didn't have like a lot of confidence in myself and like my abilities. And kind of through LARP and fighting and kind of finding a little bit more of like that confidence, it's rubbed off in day-to-day life. So just, not answering the question, but I do want to say I see those qualities in myself as well. But yeah,
Fake
The
it till you
stumbling
make it.
blocks, dude. That is literally my mantra. I swear to God, I just go out there and I'm like, I know what I'm doing.
Doing
So
fucking
Yep.
amazing. Wait, can I
100%.
curse? Sorry, can I curse?
Oh, too late. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I love you.
We're past that, so you're good.
Okay, cool. You're doing
You're
fucking
welcome.
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I try. But as far as like stumbling blocks, I think specifically for the sword path, or maybe it's kind of related, but getting over tournament nerves and getting into that competitive mindset for me has been my biggest struggle. Because I'll be honest, when I would show up to a tournament, for a long time I didn't want to compete or didn't feel like I could compete because like I didn't fight my best. I would show up there and I would be more worried about how other people would perceive my performance as opposed to just doing my best. And I would get in my own head a lot. So kind of putting myself into a different headspace and kind of accepting that as part of just the tournament culture for me has been my biggest stumbling block that has helped me kind of get to where I am. At least I'm still working on it, still work in progress, but yeah, tournament culture and like the tournament mindset specifically has been like my biggest like hurdle. And injuries.
Yeah.
Fucking injuries suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Injuries.
Yeah, but that's like
Injuries are not fun.
anything.
Hey, if you're watching this, go to the doctor.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a really good piece of blanket advice that I don't think needs to be wrapped
No,
into a
really, it
question.
doesn't.
If you have trouble with the medical system, as I do, because it sucks, let us know and I'll help you.
You're a good bean.
Nice.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you very much for
Thanks,
that.
Nate.
And also, like
Yeah,
you're, you said, Fikes, this doesn't answer the question, or it might be off the top of the
Mhm.
original question. Cool, that's all cool. This is, just to promote the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I didn't get to piggyback on some of the stuff that Nate said, but yeah,
Oh,
a
feel
lot
free
of the,
to. Yeah.
Do
a
it,
lot of the
jump back.
stuff that I think I hear it from a lot of people and things like that
Oh yeah.
in my career, and a lot of that came from learning how to teach others in sword fighting. That was part of my my path to knighthood, and after being a knight was teaching others. Ended up and I
Thank
was
you,
great.
Sensei.
You're welcome, Fikes. Fikes was one of the first people I started teaching in sword fighting, so that was pretty awesome. She taught me a lot about teaching while she learned a lot about sword fighting. It was great. I got to, and I was really happy that I got asked to teach at SKBC. So that taught me a lot about teaching a lot of people at the same time. So learned a lot about my career performance from Wax as well.
Yeah, a little bit of that. I guess I can give credit to Potato, and I will try to not quote him too much. But I remember him saying specifically, and this is in surely the last 5 years, but I'm not going to remember which trip it was. That when he walked into interviews as a warlord, like mentally, he just like, what are they like? It's just a job, and he's a warlord, and like that helped him a lot with like being able to go into interviews and have a good mentality and be able to think like, I can learn this stuff for this job because I learned how to be a good whacker. And yeah, I think of that not a lot, I guess, just because it's now so folded into my own stuff that that I don't need to think of the quote specifically a lot, but it definitely came from that sort of potato mentality.
Yeah, and it's been a thing that's happened over a long period of time. I've actually watched some of the old recordings of me teaching some sword fighting stuff, and oof, was I bad at teaching people how to sword fight, man.
Video review, baby.
I don't agree, but you have gotten better.
Awesome. So sort of jumping off of some of that talk about teaching, I know we discussed this a little bit beforehand, but what do you think are the best ways to train on your journey through Wax?
Intervals.
Shameless plug.
There's a specific, the reason that intervals were created is because of a specific type of learning where you sandwich intention with drilling. So you have like this idea where you have a free flowing creative space where you do whatever you want, which is like ABA, block strike. A lot of that stuff is trying to get you to do a specific thing or train your brain to do a creative thing in a specific way. And then you fight, which is where you can like a sort of, what's it called? A lab where you can use those things that you just tried out and see if they work or if they don't. I think that makes it very unique. And it also, the other thing that intervals is trying to do is bring up the sort of sea of people around you, the lowest and the most, just the other people that make the base of who is going to hit you and kill you, and make them better at an average. A rising tide raises all boats, or what have you. And those two things I think make it very, very good. It has some drawbacks, as if you will hear us talk about injuries. It may be maybe the most main contribution to injuries during the time that we were really, really hacking it very hard. I mean, that's the main one. If you're hitting intervals 2 or 3 times a week, it is very easy to get injured if you're not being very very studious about your health, which is why I said go to the doctor, because it is probably the next thing that I need to work on. And so I'm thinking about it a lot, and I think other people should as well. Short of that, fighting is great. You should be getting time with people as much as you can. And drills are very good to train specific things, but you have to worry about if you're not interleaving them, you can sort of get into training patterns that are difficult to break out of. That's my plug. I'll only mention intervals 3 more times. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Honestly, a lot of what I would say as an answer kind of goes, I think, in line with what you're saying, but the best way to train is to train like an athlete, I think, because what we're doing is very much a martial activity. It requires physical prowess. So obviously engaging in things like intervals, pel work, footwork, training your body to perform the movements properly, I think matters. Like body mechanics, that kind of stuff is crucial. But something I think that also kind of goes into intervals is training that mind-body connection, because being a reactionary fighter will only ever get you so far. You have to start establishing the thought behind it of like, okay, I died to this kind of shot. I have to think about what they did to move me in that specific way so that I can react appropriately, or how I can move my opponent and make them react to my movements, like feinting, blocking, all that kind of thing, so that I can get a better shot on them. So like trying to engage your body, obviously like an athlete, but also the chess game that goes into fighting is really important, and establishing that early on, I think, is really important. Yeah. Also train with good people,
Shout out to Gerald. Shout out to Jerry, who I probably put in about 100 to 500 hours with while we were doing that interval sprint that couple of years, and just like literally just trained different combos over and over and over and over and over again. And then there were other people, but like I think of Jerry specifically when I think of that dude was there for 500 hours while we hit each other, and it was really really great for my game.
Fuck yeah, dude. Like
You improved.
You can't fight
I watched you improve a lot over that time period, Nate.
Oh yeah, like absolutely.
It was
It was insane.
I probably have a lot. I have a lot to kind of talk on this subject.
Do it.
Yeah, what's up? Enlighten us, bro.
I keep mentioning that I came from a martial arts style background, and foam fighting is very much a martial art, hands down. It is the exact same thing, just fought differently. It is fought, more sporty than some martial arts, although some martial arts are also fought more sporty than sword fighting is. Won't start calling out different styles, but it's just the way that it is. Some are designed around sport and points, and some are actually taught about how to defend yourself. So learning the same way, martial arts has been around for thousands of years, and so they've got a pretty good idea on how to teach what they're trying to show people. And so a lot of the ways that I learned how to sword fight is things that I pulled from my years spent doing it. And it's the same way that I often teach other people how to sword fight. It's a very, I guess, tell, show, tell style of teaching and learning. Nate and Fyxe both hit really great points on intervals. Intervals is actually it has a tell show tell style of teaching and learning where you're showing people how to do drills, and then they're doing it, and then afterwards, a lot of times when you're doing a lot of these drills with these people that are your peers, you're talking about it, right? You're doing things like first to tens. The first to 10 is it's not a way to it shouldn't be a way to be like, oh, I'm better than you because I can beat you to 10 wins. It should be a way to learn something from another person, because what you're doing is you're fighting somebody else, and then you're talking about it afterwards is what you should be doing. Same thing with drills and intervals. And I go back to this talking about it, and it comes back down to there's a lot of theory in sword fighting, and if you're not talking about it, you're not untangling your mind space, the mental art of fighting, you're always going to be confused while you're fighting. So you need to be able to untangle that space. And the only way to really do that is to either really think about it yourself. If you're not really good at talking about it with other people, I understand. But you do need to like go through it in your own head. Or what I find easier is actually talking about it with other people, because other people have ideas and thoughts on the same aspect of fighting, and they can help you untangle what you're thinking about. So that's my like generalized version of, hey, there's a lot going on here. I will also plug intervals. I love doing intervals with these guys. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really happy that some people showed me the way of intervals. It was probably something that I probably had my mind tangled about doing at some point, but either didn't have the people to do it with, or the finished thought process of how to do it. They really figured it out. Awesome job, guys.
That's a shout out to Tato again. And
Tato.
honestly, we cribbed it so directly from basketball, y'all. Like,
Yeah, dude.
like if a
I didn't know.
lawsuit showed up, I wouldn't be all that surprised. I'm just kidding. But we did steal it directly from basketball. Like college basketball is where that came from.
That's
that
really cool.
idea.
I didn't know that.
Again, back to sports.
Yeah,
What we're
was-
doing is
it
a
was
sport. It is
Yeah,
a sport.
absolutely.
I've clipped a lot of things from other sports. Footwork is one of those things that you can clip from a lot of different sports.
Ladder drills, bro.
Football is a really good example of footwork drills. Ladder drills. We did lots of ladder drills in my backyard, Fyxe.
Yeah, I know. I remember. That was good training.
And that gets to really practicing something specific. I will say, when you are training to fight, understand when you are training, and understand when you're fighting to have fun, or understand when you're fighting in a tournament.
They're not the same.
They're not the same. They're different mindsets, and you should be doing different things during those times. You would be doing very similar things, and when you're fighting for fun, you're fighting for fun. You're like, let your mind have some fun. Don't always, if you're out there fighting for fun, then let your mind have fun. Stop having that intervals mindset or the drilling mindset. When you're out there doing intervals. Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
I mean, you're touching on something that's like the transition from, I think a lot of people had like a rogue mindset a few years ago. Even we did in this area, where it's like drill, do the same thing every time, and whereas like if you look at like New Mexico and Dragon Spine, and the wheel guys have kind of like a a flow chart through a starry sky, which is whimsical as hell, but is the way that Isaac described it to me one time, and I latched onto that because it was very nice. But like there's those two schools of thought that existed separately prior, and I think intervals is trying to say like, well, why don't you do both? Because you can get results from both, and find where you sit along this line maybe, and that the more comfortable you are, the more that you're sort of free to express your own self, you're more likely to fight better. Like the things that make you comfortable are going to be good for your mental, and the things that feel good for you, like bodily, when you're throwing shots and when you're fighting someone, are, unless you specifically just get blown out of the water, those are going to be better for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
100%. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I think one last thing I'll chat about. We can go into a different question, unless you guys really want to stay here. Is understand, really be honest with yourself on your fighting ability, and find peers and others, friends, other people at your park that you like, that you fight, that are around your same skill level, and find people that you know and understand that are higher than your skill level, and fight people and that you know and understand that are lower than your skill level. But make a mental note of it. Not to be like, ha ha ha, I'm better. Don't ever do that. But so that you're being very honest with yourself when you're sword fighting. Because if I'm fighting somebody that I know is drastically better than I am, I have to be very careful about trying new things that I'm learning, because it'll put a negative connotation on that specific thing. Even if I'm doing that specific thing perfectly and they kill me with it, I'm less likely to do that thing well the next time I do it, whether it be against that person
So
or
you're saying
not.
don't discourage yourself.
And don't discourage yourself from doing things well because you're losing again, because the thing that you're doing is making you lose against someone that's better
That's
than
fair.
you. And vice versa. Be wary about making mistakes against people that are lower skill level than you, because it will reinforce your mistakes. And I just try and keep that mindset when I'm fighting somebody, to know and understand that I might want to try new things against players around my skill level to see if they're working properly, or if I can tone them better. Also, it's a lot of fun to fight people at your skill level. I personally, I think it's a lot more fun to fight people at your personal skill level, than the other two extremes. I don't like winning all the time, against someone I'm fighting a lot. I also don't like losing all the time. But I really like the back and forth play when I'm fighting somebody that's around my skill level.
Yeah, the conversation is like why you're doing it. Like winning all the time is not fun, and losing all the time is not fun. Or winning all the time can be fun depending on who you are, but like the conversation that you're having with the other person while you're sword fighting.
If it's a tournament, I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun winning. That's a different mindset,
Yeah,
though.
it's different. That's
right.
But like having that conversation is like so important to the thing that you're doing. To add a little bit to that, that doesn't really address any of the thing that you said, because of who I am as a person. Training with anyone is going to teach them how to hit you in the body with a sword, or the arm, or any place that you will die from being hit with a sword. So if you're training with someone much lower skill level than you, probably subconsciously, eventually they will realize how to kill you. And don't dismiss people who are not as good as you just because they are not as good as you. If you spend time with them, if you train with them, chances are they will start hitting you in the body, and you will learn where you are going to get killed by anyone, not just people who are the same level or better than you. It's going to happen, and it makes it valuable. Also, they will get better, and that is valuable for everyone.
Yeah, rising tides.
Rising tides. That's
You
the
get
interval
better.
thing is
Yeah.
like
Bring people up.
combining everyone into the most intentioned group of people that can do that, sort of speed run that learning part. So you just all get better at the same time.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't put this out there, but I was speaking, from
You're fine.
from your person, right? But I love fighting. I love fighting people of all skill levels.
I didn't think you did. I was just saying, like, I had a point specifically to make about people subconsciously learning
Right.
how to kill you.
Oh, they will. They'll learn.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yes.
They'll hit you and you'll die, which is good.
I think the only other thing that I would say to kind of wrap this up possibly is consistent effort. I hope you mentioned that, but you got to put in the effort consistently over a long enough time period to make these changes and to get good at the thing.
It is a
So
long journey. It is a long journey. It is not a short journey.
Yeah, so don't be frustrated if you are grinding for however long and you're maybe not seeing or feeling the progress that you would like. Just trust that if you keep showing up consistently, those things that you're working on will absolutely become a part of your fighting prowess.
You heard Nate talking about doing intervals for years.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
long
that's
journey.
all.
It's a long journey.
Bro, we're still
One-
on the grind. I
Yeah.
don't see, we don't have the warlords here, you know,
Yeah.
like we're on the
I guess
path.
one of the other things about intervals specifically is that it makes it very much like you have a block of time, and while it is hard, it is super, super fun as long as like you're all invested in the process. You're going out there, you have a time limit, you have a thing that you're doing, and you're just like, you're just grinding away at it. And once you're done that hour, I highly recommend getting pizza. But your mileage may vary on what you wanted to do next. But it helps a lot, I think, with that, with kind of some of that. I don't know. I want to say moroseness, but that's not the word that I really want. But yeah, it helps a lot with that sort of process of the thing. It makes the easier an easier version of the obstacle being the path, because that's what it is. Like you're only ever going to hit more obstacles. That's why you're climbing, because and if you turn that journey into a journey of obstacles, then it doesn't seem like an obstacle. It just seems like a new puzzle that you solve. And like we said about why we started fighting because we love Will's here. Hi, Will.
What up, guys?
We started
Mm.
fighting because we love solving problems. So when that problem comes up, like I'm grinding it out and I'm not really making any progress, or it doesn't feel like it's making any progress, it's just a new problem. It's just a new problem to solve. It's just a new thing. It's just like every fight you've ever had. It's just bigger.
Mhm.
And you'll get through it. And when you get through it, there's gonna be a bigger one after that. So
there's
like
there's always more.
get used to converting that big rock into a path, and it becomes all path.
I'm going to jump
Hell
in real quick. We do have our wonderful fourth panelist here. If you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, just with your name, how far along the sword path you are, and how long that you've been playing.
Hi, bud.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm Warlord Tyriel. I've been fighting for 16 years at this. Well, if you count COVID.
No one counts COVID, bro.
Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, I've been fighting for 16 years. Got my Warlord in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So
That sounds right. Well, awesome. So right now we're on the question, Tyriel. What do you think are the best ways to train on my journey of wax? If there's anything that you would like to, to jump in with, feel free.
mostly just get outside of your like comfort zone. Like I know the improvements, like I noticed more improvement in myself when I went to people who weren't in my immediate area, just because you typically kind of tend to, usually there's like 2 or 3 people in an area that will train everyone, and they kind of train everyone the same for the most part. So that can kind of, I guess you'll feel a plateau, because like everybody kind of knows the dance you're dancing because everybody's been taught the same thing. But once you kind of reach out and get taught by other people, even if they're teaching you things that you might think you can't do, it's all about like it's like a salad bar. You take what you like and you leave the rest, and you make things work for you. And I feel like that was really something in my journey that that helped me out, was going and seeking knowledge from other people that weren't in my area, and kind of opening my mind to other ways of doing things. And even if you don't use it yourself, you know what other people do, and you know what other people are capable of, so you can kind of watch out for that when you're fighting them. And and it like I would say, like people typically on the eastern side of the country fight a little more linearly, whereas like the farther you go west, like there's a little more I guess creativity in the feints. People are a little more flowy, their feints are bigger, larger. So even if you don't fight that way, it's just good to expose yourself to it, because then when you see someone doing that, you're like, okay, so this is kind of how this person operates, and then you can kind of fight the fight you want to fight with that information.
Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We focused a lot on like what you would do locally when we were talking before, but the school of thought that was around before we started doing that, and I think it's still a valid thing to do if you want to get better, is if you're able to travel, and you do travel, you will probably, if you think of areas as like dojos in classic like
Yeah, for sure.
kung
Different-
fu
different-
movie.
Kung Fu versus Judo versus Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
versus-
Yeah.
being exposed and learning from those people is going to make you better. And being able to travel like gets you a view of in Amtgard specifically. I would also say all of the kingdoms are completely different. And getting a view of the different kingdoms cultures and the different kingdoms peoples, like you'll come away with an interesting perspective on the game as well. And interkingdom Amtgard is its own like separate thing as well. And a lot of those people are lovely and very friendly.
Hell yeah.
Cool. If does anyone else have anything else to add? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on to the next question.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think well, one thing I will add, we talked a lot of, like Nate talked a lot about drilling. I noticed he didn't plug anything like his CG, like the CG Dojo YouTube channel, internet in general. There's a lot of information on the internet. We talked about, the old way was traveling everywhere to get this information. I think traveling is very important, and meeting people personally is still really important. You can learn a lot from someone being physically there with them versus watching a YouTube video, for instance.
Mhm.
For sure.
Or learning, third and fourth hand from someone else who watched a YouTube video at your local park. But you can still learn a lot from YouTube videos, especially on the theory side. Just there are some people that are out there just talking foam fighting theory out there. And I think a lot of that information is really, really important.
Yeah.
It gets you in this mindset of thinking about fighting differently, which is when Will talks about getting outside your comfort zone. You really need to be able to do that if you're going to be if this is a path you want to take to learn sword fighting better. If you're not thinking about fighting differently than what you were taught a year ago, 10 years ago, you're going to be left in the dust.
Oh yeah.
You have to constantly evolve and push yourself.
And one more thing, it's a little more off topic from that, is I try and tell people that doing drills that are focusing on very basic information, basic shots, basic movements, body mechanics, going to classes that are on very basic information, sword fight, like sword and board basics, single sword basics, body mechanics basics. I went to these types of classes over and over and over again, taught by different people, because you can't get enough of these things. You will never get enough of this information. One of the things I learned, from martial arts, there's a quote from like Bruce Lee. He talks about how, he knows tons of different moves from all the different martial arts that he enjoyed. He made his own martial art based around
Jeet
Kune, exactly, based around pulling the things that worked best for him into his martial art. It wasn't something that he didn't teach the things that are best for him to everybody. It was what worked best for him. And so he understood, and he said this thing that 80% of the moves that you will only use 20% of the time, and 20% of the moves that you will use 80% of the time. And he's talking about all those basic things.
It's funny
So-
you said
That makes
Bruce Lee, and
sense.
I have a poster of Bruce Lee like right here, like to always remind me, like
Always.
What an amazing guy.
True.
Awesome. So moving on a little bit, you're all have down the path, pretty far in various ways. And so how do you recommend getting towards those final awards when it feels like you're starting to lose steam?
Do something different. Oh, and different in foam fighting. I should add that. Do something different in your. We just talked about a lot of ways to train.
Quit. Sorry.
Ah, no, that is bad
no,
advice.
that's just what I thought of.
Just
You said
remember,
do something
just-
different.
just remember, if you quit, you're making it easier for someone else on the same path. Don't do that to them.
No, man.
So
Yeah, I want it to be as hard as possible.
I want to actually read this poster because I feel like it like talks about what we're talking about right now. So the poster I have, it says defeat is a state of mind, right? So this was a quote from Bruce Lee. So no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. And to me, defeat in anything is merely temporary, and its punishment is but an urge for me to exert greater effort to achieve my goal. defeat simply tells me that something is wrong in my doing, and it is a path leading to success and truth.
I love that quote.
Good.
So yeah, I mean, like I know in just in my own experience, like when I was in my early 20s, like I had like the super hard on to become a warlord, and I traveled all over the place, got taught by different people, and after doing that for 3 or 4 years and not really feeling like I was getting any improvement, I thought it was something that would be unattainable for me. So I stopped caring about it. But I still wanted to be better for my own reasons. Like I just wanted to be better because I wanted to be better. So I just kept working. And I mean, I honestly didn't, I mean, as I've had conversations with some of you before, like I didn't even want to try for Warlord until Tato was like, why don't you just fucking do it already? Like, like so and then I literally the next 4 tournaments I fought and I won.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a matter of just like don't, at least in my case, it wasn't chasing the Warlord. It was just I just wanted to be better and win more fights and win against people who were supposed to beat me.
Yeah,
But I mean,
think that brings up a really good point in that a lot of the people that you find that are warlords, Will is a great example of this, and is that it's not necessarily about the award that they're getting at the end. That's just a means as they improve. Will consistently, after getting his warlord, still wanted to do better. He didn't stop when he got his warlord, and so I think having that mindset, not about warlord being an end goal, but warlord being just something that's on that path of improving, just like all the other orders are. Like all of the orders that you're earning from 1 to 10, they're a thing as you progress through that journey of becoming better at wax in general.
Yeah, you should want to get better for the sake of improving.
like do it for you, not for the piece of paper you get at the end.
Yeah, the most general answer to this question, which is the answer to this question is going to be highly contextual for the person. But the actual answer to the question is be better than you were yesterday as best you can every day that you wake up. And that's going to get you to wherever you're going. Whether or not that's a masterhood is going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more about your journey than it's going to be about the path itself. So I think putting the path on a pedestal, when someone asks this question, that's probably what's happening. Or they're just frustrated by like going through a rough patch, which is totally reasonable. Because I've known a lot of people who like asked me this and I just didn't really have an answer because from my perspective, they were doing everything correctly. And you might not get there, but if you're going through, like if you're doing the thing that we said before, which is the obstacle being the path, and you're doing as best you can, trying to be better than you were yesterday, then it doesn't really matter where you go, because where you go is the
Up.
You're just going to be you, and you're going to be there, and that rules. Like, fuck a masterhood. Fuck a
Journey,
knighthood.
not the destination.
You're you, and that's better. But like this is about the path, so I think if you do that anyway, you would probably still get it.
Yeah, I mean, I hit what I thought were plateaus all the time, and there's all sorts of different reasons why. That reason could be, again, back on we had one of our early questions was, what are your stumbling blocks? I might have been on a stumbling block. I could have been focusing harder on my career and school. That I just didn't have the time, for 6 months to really do practice, and that's okay. Like, or yeah, the flip side is I was practicing, 2 to 3 times a week, and I wasn't seeing improvements. The key word there being seeing my improvements. Did I track how I was doing? Did I track how I was doing 6 months ago to what I'm doing now? No, I did not do it. Not back then. I was just like, I want to sword fight people. Like, I'm not. If you're hitting these plateaus, go. I say do something different, because there are tons of things that you're not doing in sword fight. Like, there's tons of things you're not doing in sword fighting that you can do that you might find fun or unfun that might show you the things that you want to see. One of the
Yeah.
things that they do in for Dagger Here Nights is keep a journal. Keep a journal of your sword fighting for different things. Some people keep a journal on the people that they fight. They travel, 2 or 3 states away and fight, and they go out there and they look and they talk to knights or people that are really good at sword fighting out there, and they write down their name and how many times they fought them, how well they did, maybe some of the information that they told them, all in a journal. And that's an awesome way to do it. I think that's a great way to do it. Other ones just keep a list. Other people don't do any journal at all. They just kind of hope they see results. So think about why you're not seeing or feeling results, and maybe do something different than what you're already doing.
Intention is very helpful when you're doing anything. When you're like moving along a learning path, intention is really helpful. But also the other thing is like there's a massive toolbox when it comes to getting better at fighting that not a single person on this call is using every tool in. And what would probably be very helpful for you in a stagnant period is picking up an extra tool and seeing how it like, there's going to come a point where you are beating people or getting better by single percentages, and picking up a tool is going to get you a single percentage point, and you need to get comfortable with that being the case, because that's what sports are. As you get higher and higher, as you get better and better, they start being about 5% gains and 1% gains, and how you can get them.
Yeah, I mean, the higher you go, the less opportunity for like big growths that you're going to find. And so I can understand when you're closer to the end of the path, you're like you said, like 1 to 5% is all you're going to get. You can't expect to get the same big gains that you used to get. It's just micro fractions of an improvement, and that's gotta be enough. I definitely agree. Like if you feel burnout, find something that's fun again. Maybe learn a new thing, like you said. If you're sword and board main, maybe pick up Florentine or a great weapon, or just fall back in love with the game. Maybe don't focus so much on the end result.
Do some RP in Amtgard. Do some battle games. Do volunteer for something. For Darkon, I spent 3 or 4 years big into volunteering to help support the game, whether both eldering for running tournaments, eldering, teaching classes, helping new players learn how to fight, teaching new players speak, like doing our new player speeches to tell them rules about the game, all this other stuff. I was still involved with the game, but it helped me with, just those are times I'm not thinking about sword fighting, but I'm still like having fun with the game. And really, in reality, like back to the real reason we're all here at sword fighting is because we want to have fun.
I like fun.
I'm unwilling to say whether or not I like fun.
You
I
are
like wax.
You a mess.
Your smiles tell me that you like fun.
That's fair.
Can I take just one quick minute, and I just want to wish Fezzik here a very happy birthday.
Fezzik's here. Happy
He
birthday,
just popped in.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday. Love you, buddy.
Happy birthday.
Love you.
Sorry, I had to. I can't.
No,
help
thank
it.
you.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
I forgot what the original question was.
when you're getting close to your
Which one we got
10th,
this, right?
when you're losing steam, what do you do?
Yeah. Kind of push past the burnout, or deal with the burnout.
So
I have nothing, but I'm going to step away for one moment.
okay.
Yeah, I fought 2 sword for like 3 years when I felt like my sword and war wasn't improving. And then I got decent at 2 sword, and then I was like, oh, I want to pick up a board again. And fighting 2 sword for those like 2 to 3 years like made me that much better at using a board. Just because it using 2 swords made me use my feet more. It helped me fight 2 sworders better because I know, having fought it for that long, I'm like, okay, I understand this is the mindset that they have. So I have to do things to not let them do the things that I know they want to do. And that's really with any weapon combination, really. Like the more you fight with it and you get into the mindset of someone who uses that thing, even if you move to a different combination, you have knowledge of how it works and how the flow of combat works for that weapon. So, it'll just help you learn how to fight everything better because you understand the mindset of the person using it.
Awesome. Let's see. Next question. Let's move on to. So we see that a lot of knights have been belted into a family before they were ever knighted, and having that support help them grow. But how would someone who doesn't have a belt gain that same kind of support? Yes, Tyriel.
Oh, you have something to say. All right.
Being a belted family is nice, but you don't need it. Like, I mean, I'm not part of a belted family in Amtgard. I just am friends with a lot of people, and with making those friends and fighting them and learning stuff from as many people as I can, like you'll achieve a lot. Like, I mean, it's sweet to like be in a belted line with your friends, yeah, but I mean, it's not something you need. I mean, just go talk to people. And I mean, I understand that's hard for some. Like I'm pretty outgoing, so like it doesn't really bother me much. But I mean, you have to kind of put yourself out there to, just learn.
Talk to people. That's
Yeah.
it right there. That's it right there. You don't, again, just like you said, you don't need to be part of a belted family, but there are things that they're, I don't want to, you can call them benefits from being part of a belted family, but really what it is that you're going to have people that are going to be vying for you specifically because you're part of their belted line. When you don't have a belted line like that, the people that you're talking to, until you tell them your intentions, they may not even know that you're trying to get your warlord or any other knighthood. So I'll take myself as an example. I would probably have my 9th or my warlord by now if I got
Agreed.
if I had gotten awards when I first started fighting Amtgard. But I didn't know a lot of people. I didn't know a lot of people in Amtgard. All my friends were from Dagger Darkon. I had a lot of people that, because I was a new Amtgard player, but I was a good fighter in the area. I don't want to say maybe felt threatened, but were definitely not interested in me getting awards in this area.
And I got cock blocked a couple times too. Well, believe me.
Really?
We both.
Oh yeah,
I'm so sorry. I've had the opposite experience.
Dog, I could.
It was. Well, I would say it was a tough year. This was like 2009,
Maybe
2010.
a different toxic situation, because I have to be honest, like I
Yeah.
didn't experience that. I showed up at Amtgard and
Yeah.
people were recommending me.
Most the people that would cock block me and Tyriel don't play the game.
Yeah.
In this area anymore.
I'm sorry that you.
He's not
experienced that.
around anymore.
But we can. That's neither here.
I'm going to slide into your DMs later because I'm curious.
It's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. That's not here nor there. That's so I could having in a belt, if you have a belted line, you have people that are directly supporting you because they understand your intentions. You're most likely going to be talking to them more often. You're going to, and because they're already knights, they know the knighthood they know the knights in the organization. So they will then express your intentions to others, and word of mouth is a very powerful thing. If you do not have a belted line, you need to be the person that makes your intentions known to others, because you don't have someone vying for you like that. You could be outside of a belted line and have friends that can do that for you. That's also a thing. Like, for instance, later on down the road, Tato vied for me and Tyriel quite a bit. We're not part of any belted line, but he would be a person that talked about, hey, these guys are doing awesome at sword fighting. They should be getting orders and things like that.
Montag too. Huge shout out to Montag.
Yeah. Montag too. Like,
sure.
So again, we're not part of their belted line, but some of it was also back on me and Tyriel, right? The people that we had interactions with weren't the people that were vying for us to get orders and to get awards and things like that. If we did more vying for ourselves and put ourselves, call it marketing, whatever you want to call it, it's a thing that does need to happen. So that's my spiel on belted lines versus non-belted lines and how I see them in Amtgard. Also, you get the benefit of having a support, just a support line in general, right? I'm not having a good day, but can we talk? That can be extremely useful to anybody for their mental health.
For sure.
Yeah, I never really asked anyone to speak for me, mostly because I just felt like what I was doing should speak enough.
It's not,
So
unfortunately.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's just
and-
that I
There's
I,
that's
I
just
just
too many
my-
people and there's too much going on. If I can once again speak into the camera, Amtgarders, advocate for your friends, recommend them for awards, and Amtgarders, do it for yourself as well. If you get into a habit of doing it for each other, it's very helpful for the award system and for monarchs who probably they just can't pay attention to every single person. It is utterly impossible. And most of the time, situations that arise are because of that. And some of the time it's because of people being shitty. But if you get into
I
the
would say
habit of both,
more often it's just communication.
yeah, if you get into the habit of advocating both for yourself and your friends, then you're covering the most that you can. And it's probably going to be appreciated by the monarchs because they want to give people stuff that those people aren't. Like they're most likely not sitting on the high hill being like, I don't think this person got this. They're probably going to give it. And if you advocate for it, then it will probably be given. That's what you should do if you're an Amtgarder, because it fills in a lot of the holes in the system that people fall through. And those holes are very unfortunate and they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, a huge shout out to all the volunteers at Amtgard. Like they can't keep
Yeah.
up with it. They can't keep up with everybody, but you know, a lot of them are out there trying to do the best job they can.
Efforts are appreciated.
Yeah, I think it really is. I'm not really saying it as much as like, oh, I shouldn't have to speak to anyone. It's just like that's just the person that I am. Like I feel weird nominating myself for things because it's like, I don't know. I guess in my mind,
A
it's
lot
like
of people do.
I get
Yeah.
that. Like I would feel uncomfortable nominating myself,
yeah, because it's like
even if
it's
you
like
deserve it. You've earned the thing.
Right.
It feels weird. I get it. I
Yeah.
empathize with your situation.
yeah, because like to me, it's like if I go say like, hey, I want this award. I think I should get this. It's like in my mind, it's like me going like, hey, look at me. I did this thing. Give me the thing.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Where it's
yeah.
like, it's not my thing to get. It's like, it should be given to me. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, does that make sense?
I hear you.
Yeah, but shitheads are gonna do
Yeah.
that anyway, so you should do it because you earned it.
Yeah, I
True,
know-
true.
That's my take on it. Like people who you are worried about looking like are going to do that and are going to maybe have earned it, like 50-50, but you definitely have. And if you feel that you have earned it and you don't want to advocate for yourself, ask a friend. And if you feel like you can't, then ask for yourself. I mean, this is not specifically
No, no.
targeting
Right.
you. Obviously, you should do that because you're my friend and you deserve it. But everyone else should also do that because that's just the system lets people fall through the cracks, and it's sort of unfortunate because there's a lot of grudges and bad blood that come up from just a lack of communication. Palea says it's also never too late to recommend someone for an award they've earned if they get overlooked,
Thank you.
recommended again,
That's a
which
really
is
good point. I
absolutely
didn't
the
realize.
case. And if you feel like someone got passed over for a, let's say, social reason or an unfortunate bullshit reason, wait 6 months, do it again.
Yeah, and I know we just talked about, you know, you should be on this path for the journey, not the awards in general. But if you're earning the awards, you're earning the awards. You should be advocating for yourself or at least
Awards
others.
rule, and it's a lot of the reason that like people cross over from other games into Amtgard, and they very much help with those stagnant periods where people have trouble. It's like sometimes that number is going to be, you know, the 9 of Swords hanging over your bed, and then sometimes that number of Orders of the Warriors is going to be the thing that gets you through the door to go to practice. It's definitely both, but you should get the awards that you earn.
If you've earned it, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be your biggest hype man, dude.
Absolutely. And if not, find a friend who will be. And if you don't have a friend at the place, imagine that you have to hype up your friend and then replace that friend with yourself. That's how I started introducing myself to people for fights. Is I was like, well, so no one's here to do this for me, and I really want to fight that person. I need to fight that person. This event is a wash. If I traveled 6 hours and I didn't fight this person, then I traveled 6 hours for no reason. So I would walk up and have you met Tedded myself from How I Met Your Mother.
I love it. Dude. That's really good. That's so good.
Yeah, it was a little brain hack that I did.
I like that.
I'm trying to think if I have anything to actually add to the question because we got a little past it, but that's okay. seen a lot of knights. I think we covered most of it. But I would also say like knighting is squiring, and any belt that you receive is like a formalization of a relationship that should already exist in the first place. You shouldn't be carte blanche offered a belt, and I'm just gonna say that flat. I'm just gonna say it right now. You shouldn't be offered a belt by someone you don't know. They're trying to formalize a relationship that doesn't exist, and they may have the best of intentions, but you should build that relationship first. Period. And so like basically everything that these people have said, because of that, like your friends are the people that are that support network, and you can have a support network of like mentors of like knights or squires that are above you, but it should function sort of in the same way. That should be a mentor relationship that you feel is there, and then they give you a belt, and then it is formalized, and then it's helpful to have it. But if it's not necessary, if it is just a formalization of that thing.
That's a good way to put it.
Agreed.
You don't need the belt.
No, absolutely not.
It's the friendships behind the belt that should really be the indicator here.
If that is the case, yeah.
Very good. Like I did have another question of how do you feel about recommending yourself for awards?
Oh, I
awards,
think
but
we kind of covered
but
that.
I feel like
Yeah, yeah.
Do
we
it.
covered that very well.
I give it a thumbs up. If you've earned the thing and you feel like you're not being recognized for the thing, fucking submit yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for, you know, your actions to speak for yourself, but that's not always the case.
Exactly. We don't live in that world, so we got to make it the
I don't
best
think
that
we
we
Yeah,
can.
I mean, the people that have to recognize your actions, are non-paid volunteers of the game. I'm not saying that they're not doing their job. It's just they often have an overwhelming number of things to do, and this isn't their career. This isn't their paid job.
They do it for fun because they like to
it-
help.
They are here because they want to help, and they're also humans. Like
Yeah.
we are just all of us are humans. So people can make mistakes. They can be overlooked. They can fall within the cracks. It is what it
Friends we
is.
made along the way. True story. That's
It
a true
is.
story. That's a true story.
So remember that when you're thinking about, oh, I should have gotten this award, but nobody advocated for me, or I should have gotten this award, but somebody blocked me, like me and Tyriel talked about before. It was a mistake on my part. I should have advocated for myself to other people back then.
So like tack onto that a little bit, the friends we made along the way thing. I've had 2 belted relationships that dissolved for various reasons, in that belt stopped existing, and I still had and the relationship of that person was formalized by the belt. One of those people I'm no longer friends with, and that relationship stopped existing basically the moment that the belt stopped existing. Like the knighthood went away, and we were not formally or socially involved. And one of them is still one of my best friends to this day. So it's just a piece of leather that means something. But the important thing is that it means something.
Awesome. Let's see. Next up, how about this? If there is one thing you could change about the current path being, you know, the sword path orders of the warrior, what would it be? We'll probably get into more than one thing, but we'll start with that.
That's a big question.
I
That's
don't
a
know.
big
I think I kind of like the way it is, but
I don't know what I would change.
I would.
Let me-
I think from my point of view, I think modernize it a little bit is probably a good way to put it.
How so?
I think that there's this. I guess from the standpoint of X number of wins / number, like X number of streaks versus kingdom win, like tournament wins, I think needs to be relooked at. At least in my opinion, like I think it should just go, like the way that we do tournaments isn't conducive to the same way that was when that was kind of made.
like, do you think like
I don't think streaks should. First of all, I don't think streaks should be a thing.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
I don't think streak. And here's why I will say that I don't think streaks should be a thing. Streak should not be a thing because it enforces, maybe the right word, or reinforces it. it reinforces people going for high levels of orders to fight people that are not at their skill level.
I didn't think that people were doing streaks lately.
Yeah, I don't
Just
think
to express, like, maybe I'm just newer to the culture, but I didn't
No,
think
you're
that.
right. Which is one of the
should have
reasons that I think it should probably die.
That's
a
why.
good point,
Sorry,
That's
like I'm the new kid on the block when it comes to some
Yeah,
of
no,
like
you're
the cultural
absolutely
differences. So I
right.
just want to explain that I didn't think the streaks
and that's why
were a thing.
that's why I think it should just be more remodernized or modernized
Like
for
I-
the formats.
Yeah, like I had heard of like people getting orders for like Iron Man tournaments and stuff, and I was just kind of like, I don't know if I like that, you know. But I mean, that was like back in like probably 2009, 2010, and that was the last time I'd really ever heard of someone getting orders from streaks. I kind of thought that like keeping the streaks in the rules was just kind of like a
legacy or a history.
Yeah,
Like,
you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
the way we used to do it.
Yes, the rules as written, but not the rules as they operate now. Yeah.
because I mean, I'm pretty sure that I got my early orders from just winning like tournaments and at like the local level where it was like 8 or 9 people were there and we just had a little tournament and like you win or you get second or whatever and they'd give you a second or a third,
Mhm.
Order of the Warrior or whatnot. But I could be wrong. I mean, it's been so long ago. I mean, I could have got stuff from streaks, but I mean, I don't think that I did.
I've almost certainly gotten a few, maybe 1 or 2 streaking awards. That was poorly worded.
That's fair.
But I think probably standardizing it to like 1 through 7 can be streaked and then, or 1 through 6 can be streaked is probably how I would phrase that or how I would look at that, because that's basically formalizing what we do currently, or making it some like monstrous number that's just completely unattainable, because then the one person that does it can go like, I got 112, and then it's like, well, yeah, you got 112. Even if you had to like shy or slum it or whatever, you still curated that very effectively. Maybe we give you a Warlord.
I
But
don't agree with that, but
yeah, no, I'm very laissez-faire about the whole thing now. But like, I think formalizing the thing to the way that we currently do it would be good, because it's not like we're not really operating outside of that at this point. And if we do, it usually becomes like a whole fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're reading the chat now, I think.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I just posted a clarification in there also about just like how the awards work, like by the rules in.
Yeah, rules as
right
written
now.
say that streaks can get you any award on the ladder, but currently they're generally only awarded for about up to 5.
Yeah, currently
Yeah,
it's
and-
good.
yeah, I was gonna say that I think it's just like the actual the way it's written should be more modernized. I think culturally we're ahead of what's
Right.
written, right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
And maybe for the like the lower awards, like 1 through 4, 1 through 5, or 1 through 6, depending. Maybe there are other ways, like maybe more creative ways that they could be awarded, and then the higher tiers, very specific ways to be awarded.
Yeah, technically speaking, also 1 through 5 can be awarded for battlefield prowess, which is words that don't.
Very
Up to
subjective.
4.
What
sorry.
does that
It's-
mean?
Yeah.
Right.
What you did was cool. Basically the rule of cool, but for Amtgard award systems.
Was Battlefield Prowess
many
like
cool
one thing cool
things?
you did, or like for the past 6 months you've been doing intervals,
Yes,
so
one
you get
before is
an
Battlefield.
order?
Yeah, 1 through
every
4 through
huddle
battlefield
house, you get
prowess.
one
I
order.
misspoke. Also. Yeah.
Hold up.
If you spin on someone, that's a first warrior in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Dude, I should have had my first 5 in like the first 8 months I fought Amtgard. I was fucking spinning all the time, dude.
Spin to win, bro.
Thank you, Annette.
Bro.
Yeah, that's my thing on what could be changed about the path.
Awesome. Anything else before we move on?
I think probably we would want to decide as a culture whether or not defender counts.
Mean?
For like, I think right now they care. It's like 1 through 7 it counts, but then 10 it doesn't, or 8 through 10 it doesn't.
Defender.
What is defending? I'm
sorry,
sorry, I'm
defender
not-
is an award that can be given to a champion who excels during a reign, a kingdom level reign. So that
Gotcha.
can be substituted for one of your orders of the warrior currently at rules as written, but it generally is not, much like the streaks.
Is that a
I've
Oh,
never
it
heard of
was.
it.
It was removed.
Yes.
Sorry, that
Thank
was
you.
formalized. I don't read the rule book is the problem.
Yes, yeah, that was
Wow.
that was removed. And
you.
it used to be it could count for a kingdom tournament win.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
And then it was taken out in 2019.
Thank you, Gatsy, for being ahead of me.
Yeah, I just read enough of the rules to where I wouldn't get yelled at when I fight people.
I
That's
read the
important.
whole book, but it's been a few years.
And it changes very frequently. So
Thank you, Annette, for knowing the rule book because I absolutely do not.
yes, thank you.
Please let me know if I am ever cheating because I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, it'd be bad.
All right.
Annette's in charge of that
sorry.
specifically.
Annette is very good at being in charge. I'm on a committee with her, and she is fantastic. So, not to cut anyone off. If there's anything else anyone wants to add, by all means.
I'll send you more coffee, Annette.
Nah, man, I'm just crushing these Croy boys.
Nice. All right, let's go through what we've
What's everyone
done.
drinking?
Water.
Energy seltzer water.
Only
I,
the best of the seltzers.
LaCroix boy.
I finished my DP already.
I'm drinking a Glenlivet because I ran out of water.
So let's go on a positive note. So what
Everything's been
can you think
positive.
of? I guess everything's a positive. Specifically a positivity question.
Got it.
Can you think of a standout positive moment for you on your journey down the sword path?
Not everybody ever go at once.
Um.
Standout
I mean-
positive moment on my journey down the sword path specifically for Amtgard.
I
Um,
don't think it has to be Amtgard.
Well, I'll two-part it. My first part will be specifically for Amtgard. A positive moment have been, I guess, a lot of the friend relationships that I've made along the way. Nate been fighting a lot.
Boo.
I like that guy. The other
Okay.
Fyxe and Tyriel I was already friends with before I started down the sword path, but there's a lot of other people that I've fought and made really good friendships with along the way. Shout out to Tato in the local area, but a lot of people, I guess, not in the local area. SKBC, a lot of the instructors I've made really good friends with.
Agreed.
Like Brett out in Texas, Peter the Quick,
Anatole, yeah.
Anatole,
Yes.
Isaac. A lot of really good friendships out there.
For sure.
And it's not that you don't. It's not that you don't really like meet some
Take
of
it
these
easy,
people.
Swish.
Bye, Swish. We love you.
They just wish. Not that you don't get to like meet some of these people, but when you do meet them, you are and you're out there, you're fighting with them, whether it be one-on-ones, doing win or loser on a ditch field or something like that. You kind of just have something like there's a bonding moment that you get with some of these people that start conversations, and that's where that's a really good place for like a friendship to start. And there's a lot of really cool people out there that I haven't met that I'd love to fight and hang out with. So it'll be good to meet these people in the future. I guess and then I guess positive moments from I guess fighting in general on my path to like Darkon Knighthood. Darkon Knighthood is vastly different from Knighthoods in Amtgard. I think I said earlier on this that I don't know which one I like better because I think they both have really good merits. But I think I got more involved with Dark Knighthood rather than the other way around. Not so much that I was doing more for the game because I wanted to be a knight, but more so because I was doing more for the game. My knight, I was easily more recognized to become a knight.
I feel like Bellum came from that too.
Bellum, yeah. So if you didn't know, me and Tyriel were on the original Bellum committee for the first Bellum ever created, along with Gerard and Amy, who I've been friends with since I was probably like 12 years old.
For those who aren't aware, what is Bellum?
So
Plug it.
Bellum is so shameless plug for Bellum, which it looks like it's happening this year, either August, September timeframe. So, as long as everything goes as planned with COVID and COVID regulations and everything,
Get vaccinated, you fools. I want to
go
fight
go
you.
get go get your vaccine.
Time to
vaccine. So
Vaccinated.
Bellum is a Darkon event that is designed around having a very large Maryland event. I guess friendly to cross gaming. So there's a lot of altered rules. I won't say a lot of altered rules, but there's some altered rules for specific to allow to have other people from other games come and participate and have a lot of fun at a Darkon event. It is a multiple day event, usually like Thursday through Sunday. We do field battles as well as adventure style battles. We do Darkon cool adventures out in the woods. There's lots of RP. It's just a ton of fun all around.
Good hangouts for sure.
Yeah, come hang out with us at Darkon Bellum this year. We'll be there. That's everyone listening to this.
Fight us. Yeah.
So I think, there's so many moments that are sort of stand out for me in terms of just amazing times with friends. And I completely agree that the friends that we made along the path, well, I prefer Lagavulin and Dan, but thank you.
Bougie.
I'll be there though. I'll bring my own. Just like the friendships that I've made that very much feel like lifetime friendships are very important to me. But I honestly I thought about this at like a few moments about like the specific moment that really stood out to me, and I think it was this is very competitive, but I'm going to describe it. The first moment, the tournament that I won for, I believe, my 8th, was the first time that I traveled specifically to beat a warlord in a tournament. So I traveled to this tournament to win this tournament from this warlord who I knew was fighting in the tournament. And since we didn't name names previously, I will not name names currently. Although I think he would still get a kick out of it. I don't think he would be mad. And the moment that I specifically think of is in single sword. We matched up. We went through the brackets and we fought in the finals in single sword. We didn't face each other in the bracket, if I recall correctly. And he was coming from loser side and I was coming from winner side because it was double elim. So he had to beat me twice. The moment that we squared up for that first fight, and the style of, like, I just nailed it. Like I just nailed him with range. I baited him out and just knocked him out. In 2 out of 3 fights. But the moment that I hit the first shot, I saw the look on his face, and I knew that he knew that this was the rest of his day.
Yes.
And that moment, if I could crystallize that moment and put it into some product, I would market that instantly. Actually, I would just keep it for me. But that was like the moment for me that I think was made, like, it was the crystallization of like 3 or 4 years of work. And I mean, like, I had other moments like that where, like, when I went to clan, I said I wasn't going to name names, Zachary. But you know who I'm talking about. You were at that tournament. And Chris also messaging me on Messenger also knows who I'm talking about. But yeah, like when I went to GOTC and fought in a tournament every day, and my body held out and I did really well in those tournaments. All of that is great. A lot of work going into a thing that I was putting work in, but just that one, like, the look on his face was, I would eat it if it were food.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, I would probably say probably when I got my 9th. That was when I felt like the most good. like I felt the best about my fighting and like my performance and everything. Because I think I went to a Rising Winds tournament in like Indiana or something. It was like Paulo and KLT and I, and I think Collister came with us too. At that time, Paulo and KLT were still my squires. And yeah, it's like I'd never fought any of these people before. Like no one knew who I was really. And I like spent time, like people were, it was an indoor tournament because like it was fucking blizzard. And I just like sat on the sideline, like as I was getting ready and like stretching and stuff, just like watching everyone fight. And I was like, okay, like these people do this, these people do this. And then when I went and fought, it was like all of the plans that I had made, like sitting on the sidelines, like all of them worked. So I was like, man, like that was like, it just felt good to be able to be like, okay, like I watched what these people do and was able to like break it down and like, create success from it. And that was I think that was the most at least the tournament that I felt the best about, because it was like I was in a new place, didn't know anyone, and still ended up pulling a win out of it. So
I think we're talking tournament. I think my 8th of the Warrior, my last one that I earned, was probably one of the times I felt extremely good. And a lot of it had to do with the other participants in the tournament itself.
dude, that was a rough tournament.
Yeah, it was.
Mhm.
That was a deep. That was a deep skill pool.
That was deep. There were people. So there were people that normally take first in tournaments being knocked out of the Ironman, not making top 8.
Which event was this?
This is when I got my Warlord.
Yeah, it was the Yule in 2019.
Was it Yule or was it the Feast of the Dead 2019?
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Feast
The
of the
end of
Dead,
two-
'cause
it was end of
multiple
2000
day.
it was the end of
yeah, Feast of the
2019.
Dead.
It was it was the second to last Kingdom level tournament before
Okay.
COVID hit.
Yeah, it was stacked.
I was a sad
I
boy. I
remember.
had to drop out because of my back.
I remember. Yeah.
It was multiple warlords and probably 8 or 9 people with at least 7th or higher.
Shout out to Paolo, who truly beat me up that day.
That was a really good tournament for me. I felt really good having gone into that tournament with that level of skill pool and coming out on top.
You earned it. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's actually, funnily enough, one of my 2 like crowning moments that make me really happy is the fact that I was able to get 2nd place in open category. Because I got to be honest, I looked at the field and I saw the level of competition out there. And if you had told me I would have gotten 2nd place in open, I would not have believed it until I was standing there facing Tato for the shot at 1st place, and that was crazy. So that's one of my happiest moments. Mostly because of the competition was there. I felt like this is progress. This is the best I've performed against my peers.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not gonna lie, like I can't deny that sweeping the Lotus games felt really good, and that's because I put effort into that goal. I wanted to sweep it. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to win everything. That was the
You
goal
did
I
so
set
good.
out
I
with.
was so proud of you.
That means
That
so
was
much,
lovely.
dude. Thank you. So like, if I'm being honest, like I trained for that. I went into that with like 3 months of just 4 to 5 days a week, just knocking it out, traveling to different people in the area, and making sure I did that. And I did it.
It showed.
Thank-
Like your training showed because of that.
Thanks, bro. So, yeah,
I
that
think
feels good for me.
definitely the takeaway
Thanks, Leo. Thank
also,
you.
other than your peers are your friends and you will cherish that probably, hopefully.
Always.
That I mean, just noticing about the stories that we're telling here are their stories about taking and training and actioning it and having it come to fruition in that moment or that day, and you get to the end of it and you're like, you did that. Like, no, not a single goddamn person can take that from you for the rest of your life. You did that yourself. You built that and you executed that, and that lasts forever for you.
Oh yeah, that's serotonin. Ever having a bad day, I'm just like, that felt good. That's still there.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
We all have these moments that we can look back on and be like, that is the fruition of everything that we've done. That everything coming together, and it just feels amazing both in the moment and looking back on it. You don't remember all the you don't remember every single training event that you went to, every single interval session that you went to, but you remember the moment that all those intervals compiled up to.
The payoff is sweet. Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're talking,
Fuzz, are you
Fuzz, I believe
talking,
you're
bud?
muted.
Yeah, yeah. I
We
can't
can't
hear
hear you.
I always forget about this thing. If
I
I
do
flip
it
it up,
too.
if I flip it up, it mutes me, and I was dealing with a crying child for a second, so I wanted to make absolutely sure.
I see you also have good taste in headphones, my guy. Look at that.
Mm.
You can thank the wife for that. She has very good taste in electronics. So let's see, just done that one. Let's go to one that we talked about in the chat to come up with. What are your feelings on non-men's tournaments and like the non-men culture in Amtgard?
Fyxe, you go first.
Oh no!
Uh,
Throw me under the bus.
I have a tweet for this, but I don't have to go
Please,
first.
please open. I would
think
love
a
to
lot of
share
us
my
have a lot to
thoughts.
say on this.
Please
Yeah,
open up the
I
discussion.
also-
I
I
will
think-
chime in after.
I didn't read all of the stuff that you guys said, and that's not against you. I was just working. So this came up in the Smash community as well a few months ago. I think it was last summer. And it was basically asking, should we have these tournaments? Should we have this space that we create? And is it valuable? And what do you do with? They didn't really have quite. I think they had questions about the awards as well, like how valid is it if you win one of these things that you've created this space in. And so this person who is a doctorate in this is her doctoral study, and she was like, I'm studying this at a doctorate level, and she was going to explain basically why there's no physical or I guess there's a pretty good study that Ben Glickler did on the physical differences between competitors in fencing, or he looked up the physical differences in competitors in fencing. I think that there is some there's some gender separation in terms of our sport, and in fencing there has been found to be like a non-zero amount. But I think that what we need to look at, God, this is sounding like a Behind the Bastards episode now. I'm so sorry. I think what we need to look at when we look at our sports is also other areas that are very similar in terms of like nerd culture. And I think Smash Brothers provides a very good place for that. And there aren't a huge amount of physical differences that these tournaments would necessarily need to exist for. They definitely exist, but they can be like minimized and eliminated, because wax is just about putting your sword on the other person's body mostly, and that is the difference when it comes down to the moment is going to be limited. But there are massive social reasons that this happens. So like once a domain is seen as masculine or dominated by men, male coding, chess, gaming, young women who are making decisions about how to spend their time see that and say like, they don't belong here. And they won't have friends in the hobby, or their friends will be people who are on the sidelines not doing the thing that they're doing. And they'll feel awkward, or it won't be fun, or what have you. So the problem is interest and motivation are difficult to cultivate in women because it's already so masculine that they know that they're likely to experience harassment, judgment, loneliness, etc. So like the entrance basically is built up with more obstacles than the entrance for the average person. And like we've already said, with sword fighting, we have a different entry level than even the average person playing Amtgard. Like I am the person who showed up, got beat 50 times on my first day and said, this is what I want to do. But we have acknowledged that is my broken brain that causes me to do that. So like in cognitive domains, anxiety directly interferes with performance. Having to stave off feelings that others see you as inherently inadequate takes mental energy that can no longer be put into the game, whether you believe that they're correct or not. So if you put a woman in a tournament on tournament day who has practiced the same amount of hours as a man who has practiced for that tournament, she's most likely performing worse, just because of all of those cognitive behavioral difficulties that she has to go in with. My mental game is very good, but I don't have to deal with the fact that I don't feel like I belong when I walk up to the tournament field. And that would destroy my mental game. Frankly, I've had tournaments that I lost, or that I wasn't going to win, but that I lost fights that I could have won because I've had a spike in anxiety. Like it affects your resources, it affects your pre-training time, because all of this is under the same domain. Like you're going into this situation where all of your pre-pro is affected by the anxiety that you're dealing with, and at every point you have to deal with these social these behavioral problems. Like you have to think about whether or not you're going to be wanted there, and all of that is just mental training that you have to do for yourself, that you're not spending doing like matchup training or thinking about like how you're going to perform the day of, or thinking about the best thing you can eat the day of. All of that stuff goes into it. So my take is the reason that we have these tournaments is because they normalize women gaming. Sorry, I'm reading a little bit and I'm ad-libbing a little bit at the same time.
I'm very engaged with what you're saying. Please go on.
So they normalize it for the whole game. They normalize it for all of the other games. As soon as we started having these conversations, we were starting to normalize them across games, not just in our own game. They remove the component of having to prove yourself on behalf of the gender to your opponent. Although there's probably the possibility that there's a little bit of weird, like difficulty if there are like we have tournaments that are just non-men, so there's the capacity for stuff that could be occurring there for people who are non-binary. I won't speak to that for them because I don't experience that, and I'm sure that they could tell us if there is difficulty for that. And they make you feel like you have a better shot at winning. So, sorry, there's more.
Please,
they
this
allow
is an important topic
they
to
allow
me.
you
I
to
wanna
meet
hear
other
it.
women who could be sources of your social support and training, which I literally feel like I watched happen at the Lotus Games. Like that is not like that is a thing that I watched in person, like people building relationships in an environment that there was just like it was judgment free. Like Goldcrest,
Shout out
thank
to
you
Goldcrest.
for doing that. And also my partner felt that way at the Lotus game. My partner built relationships at the Lotus games that are outside of the relationships that I've built. And that is something she wants to fight. Like she wants to be a person on this path. So that is, it is both a separate relationship that she has from me, which is very important, and from like a cross-gender relationship, which is all very important. And they give more exposure. Sorry, I think I said that one. They give exposure, which could lead to interests. Oh yeah, players and sponsors can basically see people performing and say like, I want to invest in this person. We wouldn't have that happen with like brands necessarily in our game, but that is something that that this person mentions in terms of Smash Brothers. But
Under Armour, if you're watching this, I want to fucking
Propel,
ship
if
me.
you're watching this, please sponsor me. Under Armour too, Adidas too. Yeah, like it's just a space that you create that is separate from all of those upfront difficulties. So if you're talking about a situation in which there is a wall or a moat, the whole purpose of these is to remove the wall or the moat. And then if you're having conversations about what happens with awards after that, you're going too far. You're thinking too much. You need to create the space. And if you're a man, honestly, you might need to stop talking for a while. And I realize at the end of this that I'm talking a lot, that I'm very man presenting. And that's not the best look for someone saying, shut up, men. But it's just, it is my take. Like you create the space and then you see what they want to do with the space, because it's not really about your space. And that is my fucking TED talk about, please do this thing. It's very important for the development of these people. And if they're interested in doing the sport, we should create the space for them and let them run with it and give them any resources they need to run it. That's it. I'm gonna drink water because that was a lot of words.
If you guys want to speak up, and then I will gladly address.
All right.
That was,
If
Sorry,
you-
that was a lot to lay at your feet that I didn't warn
I-
any
I-
of you
No,
about. I'm very sorry for that to the other participants.
I love
because
how
I could,
passionate you are.
I
No,
could
no,
have
no.
given you a little bit more warning on the stuff that I was going to say. It's just I was working and then anxiety.
I'm actually still here. I'm still actually still here processing a
I
lot of
can
that information.
send the Twitter thread as well if you want to read it.
Yeah, I'd love to read it because
Yeah.
I bet you I may have heard 100% of that while I was staring at the screen, but
You're fine.
I actually probably processed about 20% of it.
Yeah,
and
it's the
and
Twitter thread is pretty similar to what I
I'll-
was saying. I just added some extra stuff.
yeah, and a lot of what I heard are things that I agree with. And it's really great to hear from an actual, like, a lot of the information that we hear from our friends here, or just opinions from other people in our peer group in sword fighting, have no real scientific backing.
Mhm.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear the opinion of someone who made their study for years.
Doctorate.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so there's not
in-
she
in a
doesn't
study.
cite anything, just so you know. She is going off of like doctoral research from being a professional expert in the subject.
Mhm.
That is what she's going from. So I don't have like a paper to give anyone if they're asking for that. Please don't ask me for that. I don't have it. But that is like the perspective of a doctoral candidate. Or no, I think she has her doctorate now. I think she passed in the
Word.
intervening months.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
I will say that I had a lot of fun helping with the Lotus games, being there to support. I was there primarily to support Fyxe. I helped her in her training going to the Lotus games, but I also I just, the atmosphere in general was really awesome. I got to meet a lot of I got to meet a lot of new people, and the volunteerism for a lot of people, especially the volunteerism from both men and non-men to help support the tournament was really great. So, and yeah, again, thank you, Goldcrest, for setting
Thank you,
everything up. He
Goldcrest.
did a really good job.
Mhm.
Dan Boomhauer asked, "What is the Lotus Games?" Lotus Games was put on in 2019. I believe it was the fall of 2019.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It was put on for Amtgard. It was based in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and it was a non-men's tournament. It was designed around Amtgard rules, but it was designed to be inclusive of, cross gaming. Any non-men that wanted to join could participate. It was a lot of fun. We had probably upwards of 25 fighters, 20,
Yeah,
20,
there was
20,
20
25 fighters.
something. I don't remember the specific number, but yeah.
And then probably in the upwards of 50 people at the tournament, helping out. We had tons of volunteers for Reeves. I got to take sweet drone footage of the tournament. A lot of fun.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a little bit of from Nate and stop
That's
talking.
okay. I know that you guys are looking to me to speak on this. I just make sure I gather all of your insights before I lay it all out. My thoughts, my 2 cents for what it's worth. Of the men on this panel.
Yeah, I mean, most of my opinions just come from like speaking to women about it. So, I mean, the thing, and I agree with the women I've spoken to on it, including you, Fyxe. Like, we've had conversations about this like a bit, and yeah, I'm sure you'll touch on that. So like I'm all about non-men's tournaments and creating that space and people creating those relationships and things that Nate touched on in what he was saying. My point of view is that I don't think that, like, I agree with Nate in the regard of that we should stop thinking about awards when it comes to this at this moment. Mainly because, like, I know that there's been talks about separating, having like non-men's warlords and men's warlords, and I don't think that that's the answer personally. The women that I've spoken to on the subject, have basically told me that they feel it's unfair to them because not as many participants are in those tournaments. Some of them feel as though the skill pool in those tournaments isn't as deep as it should be, and that's no fault of the participants. That's just currently what our culture is, and if that is because women don't feel that their training would match up to men's training or whatnot, whatever it may be. You know, a lot of them I feel also come from a different mindset. You know, I mean, the women I spoke to, you know, namely Izzy, you know, Rainan and you know, other rogues from Texas. You know, I feel that they feel almost as though they're being forced to, you know, be pushed into this category that they don't wish to be in. And I think that like I'm all for, like, you know, if non-men's tournaments award up to 6th level warlords, like I'm about that. I think that you should still have to win kingdom level tournaments to attain a warlord. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of you know, non-men fighters who are about the, you know, separating the tournaments into gender. But I also feel like there's women that are kind of being silenced in their opinion of, you know, that they don't want this, and they feel that if anything it would do more harm than good to separate by gender. And which I kind of think is fucked up, because it's usually men telling them that they should just suck it up, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, I'm about it. I just think that like warlord should be warlord. You should like you shouldn't separate by gender when it comes to that.
All right. I'm going to take by your silence that it is my turn to speak now.
Annette said, please clarify that no one is canceling open tournaments. We're not separating by gender specifically. Another option is being offered, but no one is women are not losing the ability to compete in an open tournament.
What? So I understand that. But the feeling though is that as far as the separate but equal is not equal.
Sure.
I think
Like, you know what I'm
Understood.
saying?
I wanted to make sure that, because Annette is definitely one of the people who's pushing for this, but discussing this pretty openly, and she wanted to indicate that it would be co-ed and non-men's, not separate tournaments completely.
Yeah, I think one of the big issues here, if I'm getting this correct, is that if you have separation of, say, the warlord award, and then you have warlord and non-men warlord, and to even like, so say say Fyxe got her warlord, whether before or after the separation, what does she call herself when people ask her, well, what is your award? Like, how many orders do you have? Does she say, oh, I'm Warlord Fyxe? Well, then do they assume, then everybody that she says that,
if you think about it,
it does. It sounds awesome. Does everybody that she says that to assume she's a female or non-men warlord?
sure.
Like how?
Oh, fuck. No, I have so many very conflicting like emotions on this. Oh, I hear you.
Sorry, I think we should be, again, like, you know, we're talking about awards here, and that was one of the no-nos that you talked earlier, Nate. But
Sure.
at the same time, like, I want to be I think it's something to be very careful about, going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Or at least think about it for the future.
Fyxe, it is your time, I believe.
All right, I'm ready. Dude, I just want to preface everything by saying I always feel, if I'm being honest, a little hesitant to speak on this subject, because I am very aware that my experience and who I am comes with bias, that I've built up. And I never want to be put in a position where my thoughts are construed as like the opinions of this larger population. I can't speak for all non-men, but I can speak from my experiences. So I definitely agree with some of what Nate is saying. There's absolutely an extra level of anxiety that I've felt when I step out onto a tournament field and I'm the only woman. Like, it shouldn't bother me, I suppose, but it does. Like, in that moment, there is more baggage on me. I am not just me, a fighter fighting, trying to do this thing. I'm also Fyxe, the woman who's also competing in this space, and then I feel like I have to perform a certain way because there's this baggage that has been put on to me. People look at me in a certain way and they expect a certain level of performance, and when I don't meet that, I feel like I'm letting down my gender as an equal participant in this thing to do. So I can understand some of the things that, you know, other non-men have maybe experienced in a competitive co-ed situation. I don't know the answer to kind of addressing that other than from a cultural perspective, which is why I do think that things like the Lotus Games or other non-men's tournaments do a lot of good for building up a sense of confidence that maybe other women or non-men go into this kind of space, and this may be the first thing they've ever done in a competitive setting. You know, women or non-men sometimes are often not taught how to be competitive in that environment. We're not pushed towards sports at a young age the same way that most men are, you know. So I can kind of get all of that, but I think there's benefits to having those tournaments. But again, I don't know if I would want to be forced to compete in those. This is the only way to get an award. And so, like, for me, Fyxe, the person, I wouldn't want to get my warlords from a non-men's competition, but that doesn't mean that someone else shouldn't be able to. And I don't know the answers to that, but like, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that because I'm trying to be the best fighter that I can be in a co-ed environment, you know? Like, so I have very conflicting feelings about it because I don't want people to say, well, you shouldn't do this thing because Fyxe doesn't want like non-men's tournaments. That's not what I'm saying. I think that they do a lot of good. I just, for Warlord, I view Warlord as personally like the peak of physical performance. And I absolutely believe that non-men and women can compete in this space as equals, but that's just the belief and the view that I have. That said, I'm not denying that it is sometimes harder for me. I'm smaller as a competitor. I have less muscle mass. There's certain things that I just don't have innately, such as my range, but I feel like a short person, regardless of gender, could still do that thing if they put in enough time and effort and work. So I think it's attainable. I think it's unfortunate that more women or more men haven't done it. There's only one warlord that is a woman, Warlord Boots. So there has to be something to be said about that. But again, we're also a minority, so there's that to take into consideration. There are just less women who are interested in fighting, and even less so interested in the competitive level of top tier fighting. And so we're already a minority within a minority. And how do we get culturally more women engaged in this kind of thing? So I think the tournaments kind of, in my opinion, should encourage people and lead them to compete more in the regular Kingdom tournaments. So I'm not sure if that answered all of your questions, but that's just kind of like my general idea on the subject.
I think
I
it's
think
your
that
mindset though too.
How so?
Like like the people that you're surrounded by.
I'm very aware of my bias. I'm
Like,
surrounded
you know
by
what I mean? Like-
wonderful, really good fighters, and like that's rubbed off on me, you know. And like I'm blessed in that way, and I'm very fortunate. And not everyone has access to that, you know, like the support system that I have, and I'm aware of that.
I think I was looking for it for a moment, but I think one of the important things that I'll have to come back to it, see if I can find it again. No, I lost it. I'd be interested to know from more people that who participate in the Lotus Games, how that affected how that affected them as a as in their fighting, and how much more they wanted to do fighting. I suspect that it helped a lot of people maybe lower some of the anxiety of fighting in general, not even just in tournaments, but just going out in the field and doing battlefield stuff or ditch fighting and things like that. And I hope that it did. Yeah, I think so. I'd be interested to see, you know, other people. I talked to a couple people from the Lotus Games, but not a ton of the participants. Afterwards.
What I'm trying to read the question. Leal was asking me if I'd be willing to speak to the perceptions of the atmospheric differences between a typical open tournament and Lotus Games. Are you talking about what do you mean by atmospheric differences? I'm sorry, I'm not following. Or maybe someone else might have better interpretation skills than I do, buddy. What do you mean by that?
I think probably what they mean is, yeah, like what's the vibe?
If I'm being honest, like again, just probably because of who I am as a person. I didn't feel like a different in the tournament, but that's because every tournament I show up to, I'm surrounded by my best friends, my bros, typically, you know. So it was for me just going to another event where there were also good friends, you know. So I might not be the best person to speak to that, although I will say that the Lotus Games had a lot of really positive, wholesome energy that day. Like you and I would like to think became good friends because of our interactions that day. You know, you become someone really important to me because of the Lotus Games, and I would not have maybe had the chance to meet you in a more like one-on-one situation had that not been presented to us. So yeah, that was the day we became friends. So that's really cool. You know, I love the Lotus Games. I have nothing bad to say about it. I look forward to another one if Goldcrest is so wonderful to run it. And like I myself, I run a non-men's tournament at Ragnarok. If that ever becomes a thing again, you know, who knows if that here is going to survive. But that's neither here nor there. But like I do think it's awesome, and I run them because I see that kind of energy that maybe people who are a little bit more hesitant to show up for a tournament might have felt encouraged to do that, and like maybe they fell in love with fighting a little bit more that day. Regardless, it's worth it for the friends we made along the way. I think that's the mantra of this of this panel.
Or
Yeah.
path, or the friends we made along the way.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a good vibe. Interesting. I'm sorry that you've experienced angry feelings in a tournament setting before. That's unfortunate, but I'm glad you had a wonderful time at the Lotus Games. And if nothing else, I think that's worth cultivating. It's part of a culture.
So I think so I think what I was trying to come up with earlier, I was trying to find more like I guess a quote that I saw earlier, but I can't quite remember it. But it had to do with the way that I guess the way that men treat women in tournaments, and it denoted there's a lot of studies in it that men who were in the like say I would say call the middle bracket of any sort of competitive sport that women were also involved in, often felt very threatened by women doing better than them.
Oh yes, I have
Whereas
experienced that.
I think they specifically noted like Halo, like
Yeah. Oh
the
yeah.
Halo
Oh
video
my
game.
god, dude. Oh, god,
Yeah,
that shit was
I
so
recall that
toxic,
study.
bro. Ugh.
So there was but players who were in the top tier bracket, so men that are in the top tier brackets were very welcoming of female competitors. But because men in the the middle brackets are very much a majority versus you're like your high percentage, your top tier, like your top 10% are still minority. You like that is what's shown, and I feel very very sorry for that vibe that gets pushed out by men who feel threatened by non-men competitors doing better than them.
Yeah, it sucks. It
Thank you,
sucks so
Karen.
nice.
It really does. Thanks. I appreciate that you guys recognize that. It's unfortunate.
It sucks, and if you're watching this and you do it, don't. But I know you will. But don't, and don't let me see you doing it. Don't.
So I strive to make non-men feel welcome in fighting in these tournaments. So I hope I've always made you feel welcome, Fyxe, and anybody else that I've met.
I mean, straight up, you guys have been wonderful mentors, role models, and family members. You, both of you, right here, just saying, were the first people to come into my life and teach me as though I was just another person. You didn't take gender into my consideration at all. You just taught me how to fight like a short dude, and that meant a lot to me. Also, you weren't creeps, which again meant a lot to me.
For sure.
But it sucks because not everyone has access to good people, unfortunately. There's a lot of questionable individuals in any social setting, and that's gotta be hard.
Absolutely.
That's especially like that's what we've been talking about, having good people around you the whole time, and it's difficult. It's more difficult for a woman or someone with a non-binary gender to have access to those people. That means that it's just another roadblock, right? It's just another, and it's not the kind of obstacle that we're talking about earlier with training. It's like literally like a boulder rolling into you and shoving you off the path, because it's like, well, fuck this. Why would I do this? I can just go somewhere else.
I would understand why people would feel discouraged. Like
Absolutely. was just making commentary. I was
No, no,
just
that I,
with you.
for what it's worth, I see that.
Hmm.
It's just
I'll
hard,
throw-
man.
I'll throw out, we're, I'm not gonna like say stop the conversation, but this is gonna be the last question for everybody. Just because we're running at the, near the end of we're past the 4 o'clock time, but this is, great conversation. Keep going. Just, let me know when you're done so we can, close out.
And also, if anyone does have like more interest in engaging me on this kind of subject, like slide in my DMs, I'm happy to discuss it more. Like, but this is just my humble 2 cents, and I just don't want to ever be represented as knowing the one way for all men. That can't be the case.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't.
And
think.
if anybody has anything they want to put into chat, real quick, feel free to.
Are
I
we
guess the
taking questions or are we just cutting?
I mean, I'm down to take questions if you know what I mean. Like,
I can stick
Questions?
around for a few.
I know Annette did post a question on my post on Facebook, so I can pull it up and add it here.
Buzz, are we good to hijack and take questions?
I have a child I'm trying to rock to sleep, but as long as Robin is okay staying around and recording, and I have a mobile headset so I can keep listening until stuff is done.
Okay.
But I'm okay, keep going as long as Robin's okay to to stay around with tech stuff, and
Robin
you guys are good. I see a
says-
thumbs up from her, so
Yep, she's good.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank
you,
you.
Robin.
So yeah, if no one else has other questions to add to the chat, I'll throw at least the ones that Annette did ask.
Good.
So she says, we've been having a lot of discussions in my home park about new player onboarding. What does a good first day look like for a new player who wants to fight? What kind of fighting concepts should be established to players teach them in their first day or first 6 months?
Make sure they're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Amtgard, it's gonna be weird. You kind of want to give them everything and then see what they like and then do what they like. So you're kind of running like a very wide sample and then an elevator pitch with whatever they like, because you might not know if they like fighting their first day, and you might not know if they're gonna be like sword path or whatever their first 6 months. But as
Mhm.
long as they're having fun and they're continually like encouraged to do whatever, then they'll probably come back. Ditch if you can, unless they really, really, really like me, like getting the tar beat out of them.
I don't. Very few people that I've talked to chose that they wanted to go for Warlord the day that they showed up.
yeah,
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, I didn't want to do this until I had been fighting for almost 10 years. Other people took 6 months, a year. Some people come in really liking the battle games portion and then transition over. I
Yeah.
started in a Darkon where there's no difference between battle games and ditching and militia. It is all just
yeah.
on the field fighting, with class abilities and everything. Which actually, to be honest, I really like that side of Darkon where there's not there's not a large division between people that just want to put stick to body and like class games.
It's all done under
Just
one
re-
branch. Yeah.
I ran around as a cleric in plate mail, like hitting people in the head with a flail for 4 years before I like decided I wanted to get good at sword fighting. So I mean, it's mostly just because I was like, man, swinging swords looks cool. Maybe I'll put this flail down. Like
For the aesthetics. Okay.
yeah, and then I was like, I really like the way it feels when I hit a guy with a sword. I'm gonna keep using a sword. So
At Darkon, we give what we call a new player speech every event that takes about 15 minutes, and like people who haven't been to at least 5 events are required to go. I think
I like that.
it helps people like get in touch with the rules as they come to more events, especially because events are 2 weeks apart from one another. So like
They're also relatively like larger. They average about duchy or higher numbers for anyone who is not familiar with Darkon. You usually get 40 or more people.
yeah, I mean it's usually around like 80 people now. But I mean when I first started, I mean and Aaron was at my first event like before he went to the Air Force, and there were like 250 people there. And
Yeah,
that was every 2 weeks for like a couple years. Like it was just so many people. There's like nothing like I'd ever, like my first event was like a camping event. You know what I mean? Like you don't usually pull those numbers unless you have like a big event, but it was like every 2 weeks there was like at least 200 people there. It was nuts. It was
Events that are that big just have a different kind of fun environment to them. It's
Yeah.
Vibe for sure.
it's crazy.
Diff
Oh.
vibes.
But yeah, specifically to answer the question, I think kind of what we're saying would kind of apply is just the vibe, making someone feel welcome and like they can be a part of this thing, and like not treating them like an outcast or an outsider. That doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with someone, but even just being polite and warm and engaging them and offering them assistance if they have any questions, and being available to a new person, I think makes an impact on them wanting to show up again and come back. As far as like from a fighting perspective, I think Nate makes a good point, is to let them kind of figure out what they enjoy doing. Like it might be overbearing to just go and be like, all right, this is body mechanics and everything from day one. That might be something that you could work up towards. I think is important. Like within the first 6 months, I would definitely be like, all right, let's focus on some basic footwork. This is some basic body mechanics and basic shots, and give them the tools that they can start understanding fighting if that's something they are wanting to engage in. But day one, just be friendly and welcome them back, I think at least.
I think it comes back to the sword path, important rule being, if you're not going to have fun on the journey, you're not going to have fun at the end or the beginning or the middle, anywhere in between. Like, so if that person's not going to have fun on the journey to sword path, that doesn't mean they have to be, just because they're coming to Amtgard doesn't mean they have to be the best fighter. No, there's tons of stuff. There's tons of there's tons of things to do that everybody has a different kind of fun at these events.
Yeah.
True.
I love that about Amtgard. We're wax, some for everybody.
Yeah.
So something that kind of worked for some cats down here. So I moved to Southern Virginia very recently, and I missed you guys. But I mean, they've been doing like really small practice, like mass practices and stuff down here, like during the week, and they've had like 8 to 10 new people that have like started the hobby, and they invited them out. It's like, here's how you chop so you don't hit someone in the head, like the really basic stuff. And then instead of just having like sparring and ditching all day, they sorry.
Okay.
But like, can y'all hear her?
Very faintly.
Okay. She's over there jamming, bro. So yeah, like they, instead of doing like ditching and sparring all day, they actually did games and stuff, like at a practice.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they would do like little capture the flag games or like things like that. And through doing those games and just kind of like yeah, they're fighting, but it's like you're working at an objective and just kind of having fun with it. After a while, they were like, okay, so like, how do I start like spinning on people and shoulder wrapping? It's it kind of just led to that, because the people that they were fighting with like had been fighting for a few years and were like pretty good, and it just kind of evolved into that. Again, like like we were speaking of earlier, Fyxe, it's the atmosphere that you're surrounded by.
Hey, man.
So I mean, as
Vibes.
long as those people are having fun and like dig what they're doing, I mean, they'll decide whether or not they wanna get better, if that's something that they want to do.
Yeah, and just make sure that when that opportunity is available to them, like if they want to be good at sword fighting, be good sword fighting, or
Yeah.
Mhm.
if you're not the person to teach them, there are a lot of people out here that are willing to help.
And there's nothing that says you have to pursue any knighthood or any belt or any award. Like if you just want to come out and like enjoy your time, like that's valid. Like you don't need to get awards or anything like that to just have fun,
Sure.
Chris here posted sword path is weird, and I think a lot of people would agree that just kind of clicks for some people one day. Like when he started to go to Serpent Path at his first Yule, he kind of had an awakening moment. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think a lot of us have just moments that we're just like, man, this is, yeah, I want to sword fight people, and I want to do it well.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's really funny. Like, so like I said, Aaron was at my first event, before he went to the Air Force. And then he was gone for like what felt like an eternity. But I remember the one thing that like helped me stick with it was like I was running around like no armor, like in like a fucking sleeveless shirt and like some like weird pants that like his cousin had given me, and you know, and him and I were fighting together, and I like killed this guy with killed a couple guys with the flail, and Aaron, he turned to me and was like, he's like, you're pretty decent with that. And then I was like, oh, like, okay, like, all right, I'm pretty decent, you know, like, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna keep doing this, you know. So it was just even just those simple words, like those, like made me stick with it because it was like, you know, encouraging, and you know, from someone who at the time who I didn't even know, you know.
A kind word can go a long way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you had some other questions from Annette, correct?
Yeah,
If you guys have the time and want to keep going, I'm
they
good with
asked
it.
me one other question. Well, I mean, they asked me a third question, but of course I'll fight you. Hell yeah, dude. They asked, what were some early memorable experiences with learning to fight, both good or bad?
Nate's trying to talk, but it's muted.
Yeah, there we go. Like the sound died for me too. It just came back.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of like a specific bad memory because we talked about a lot of, I guess early experiences doesn't cover the stuff we talked about earlier. But one of I think the bad memories is like, I fought a lot with my wrists when I started. I was throwing raps that basically was like doing the extra, getting the extra flick with my wrist. It was bad. And it would hurt after after every day that I fought, my wrists would hurt.
Why?
It's just
Figuring that out. Wraps, bro.
Yeah,
wrist
figuring it out was not fun. I just have a neutral wrist and I don't use the wrist to do stuff now. So it doesn't hurt after I fight now, with the exception of maybe my knuckles because they're pretty busted up sometimes. But yeah, like a lot of injuries happened early on with me just sort of being like, well, this is whatever. But those are not now. Those are not very fond memories of fighting. I think the early fighting memories I have that are very good are like Darkon is especially good for this because when you go to Darkon, you fight with your friends, and I think that is by far the best feature of that game, period. And Keep does this as well, where you have teams that are selected based on balancing the teams against each other, but also you get selected as a group. Having my friends always be on my side when I go to Dark on Sundays, it rules. It's the best. It's the best thing in the whole world.
Honestly, I forgot that wasn't a part of Amtgard. I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
That's
at larger events, you should always make it so that people who travel in groups go on the same team if you can, because that is those people should be able to like have their good memories with each other if they can. I understand if you can't balance it, totally understandable. But if you can do it, it will. Those people will have a blast, and you won't have to do anything. You literally you won't have to do anything, and your event to them will be like 1 star higher no matter what.
That was one of the things. Oh, go ahead.
If there's anything better than winning, it's winning with your friends.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's why I love tournaments so much.
I was just gonna say that I love tournaments, but the one thing I love more than tournaments like Amtgard tournaments is team tournaments, and having a tournament with my friends is amazing. Yeah, I really enjoy that. I'll all wear this.
I have a tattoo. It's tattooed on my fucking body.
I mean, there's a gear in there.
Yeah.
Sorry to hijack you, Nate, but yes.
That was actually, and to just to echo Nate's point, is like that was one of the things that frustrated me the most about when I first started going to Amtgard, because it's like, you know, you'd have a few people ditching and then the class game would start, and then they're like, well, you have to go over here and you have to go over here, and it's like I didn't just drive 2 hours to not fight with my homies. Like, so you know what I mean? I would just not play. I would just spar on the sideline or whatever, just because it's not fulfilling to me. But yeah.
Run a team tourney. If you're an organizer watching this, run a team tourney. People have a really good time.
I like
The
jugging.
We had
Fuzz-
a
Yeah, I was gonna say
Fuzz-
Fuzz ran one, and that was
Yeah.
awesome. That was the
That was very
most fun
fun.
I've had at
Thanks,
an Amtgard
Fuzz.
event in a long
We
time.
appreciate you.
echoing most
I
fun
want
I
to run
had,
it again.
You
most
should.
fun I had at an Amtgard event.
We will show up.
The capture the flag team tournament. It was really cool because it was objective based and team based, and it was just really awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess another thing I could add was, for me, it was both a good and a bad, but learning specifically like a new shot, like pocket stabs. When I was new and learning how to do that shot, I was absolutely terrified. I was going to pop people in the face because, bro, like, let's be fair. I'm kind of short. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it.
You're
But, like,
really
I'm
good
fi-
at stabbing people now.
Dude,
I am
hella
now, but
good.
so you have to understand, I was already getting hit in the face so much because, you know, kind of where my face is where most average people's torsos are. So it happens. I'm used to it. I didn't want to start, you know, jamming people in the face and like returning that. I was very mindful of that. So the anxiety of even learning how to throw that shot and overcoming it to the point where now bread and butter in my favorite thing. So that to me was a bad that I turned into a good in my process of learning how to sword fight.
I still to this day love watching you stab people.
Dude, it's
Oh, thank you.
amazing. Dude, the best ones are when like it's like this dude that's like twice as big as her, and she'll like pocket stab it, and they'll be like, and you're just like, yeah, get wrecked, mother. Like,
Like it's
I
this
mean,
mean
some-
face, and she like jumps over top of their
Yeah.
shield and stabs.
You guys make me feel really good. Thanks, bro. See, serotonin, I'm going to crystallize this for later when I'm having a sad and be like, friendship. My friends think I'm cool.
You are cool.
Well, thank you. That means a lot, friend. So yeah, like, I think that to me, that was mine at least, my memorable fighting experience.
I have every single Dagger Here team tournament we've been to, and some of the Dark Hunt team tournaments. Actually, all the Dark Hunt team tournaments we fought together in have been extremely positive fighting moments. Even the losses, like not just talking about wins. Yeah, I'm talking about the losses. Losses together too still feel really good.
Yeah,
Did anyone else have questions, by the way? Feel
Oh,
free to post them.
so like I would say one probably my most like positive like single experience, like just myself. So over the years, like I would, especially in my early 20s, like I would drive like 14, 15 hours just to spar with Peter. And you know, after doing that for a while, like we started to become friends, and then there was a long period of time, like some years actually, before we saw each other again. And so we like tapped swords, and we like fought like 3 or 4 fights, and then I noticed that like when we were fighting each other, both of us had like an ear-to-ear grin, because we were like exchanging, and like I don't know, you guys have seen that video from Wolfpack Opener in like 2014 or
I've
something.
seen it, yeah.
That day was that, but I didn't see him for like 4 years, and like I had been like training all the time and like really like pushing myself, and we were like exchanging, and no one was hitting each other, and like we'd like break away, and we would just like laugh, you know, and it was just super positive, and like both of us were like super happy just to like be in that moment. And you know, and ever since then, it's like when we fight, it's like we're both just grinning, you know. It's one of those things, like I love that feeling. And yeah, that's probably one of my more positive experiences.
It's a good
Yeah.
one.
Real wholesome, bud.
Lord, do I miss fighting right now?
Don't we all?
We had a question come in from Thrash. A lot of players, including
Hey, bud.
myself, are about to come off
Threshold.
a year plus hiatus from fighting. What preparation and precautionary measures would you recommend to avoid acquiring new and exciting repetitive strain
That's a
injuries?
damn good question.
Oh,
I have some stuff.
jump over a pole arm near a picnic table onto a bad knee. Onto a bad knee.
Don't.
Yeah, bud.
Let's see. there's one thing that I'll plug is Tato did a series of mobility mobility videos recently. I don't know exactly where they are, but if I can find them, I'll like find a place to
Yeah,
link
he did
them.
a
where
panel for like SKBC. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a panel for SKBC. So he did mobilization for your top stuff and then mobilization for your bottom stuff. And that would be very helpful to anyone who is looking into not completely breaking themselves coming back. Although he also is sort of looking ahead, and it requires some stuff that you might not have at home. So I would say basic stretching is going to go a long way. You might want to start warming up and then stretch. I think that's how you're supposed to do it. You're not just
Supposed
supposed
to,
to do
yeah.
cold.
Stretch after fighting as well.
Yeah,
A
I
lot
would
of people
say
only
like
do it before.
warm up, then stretch,
Stretch,
and then fight, and then stretch. Your first couple of times, you're not going to be able to go too hard, and if you push yourself to go too hard, it's going to be bad. But most likely you'll have bad cardio, so you don't really need to worry about that. If right now you have good cardio, don't fight as much as you would normally fight. Don't do it. You will destroy your arms or your legs or something. Something in your chain will be destroyed by the amount of cardio that you have. If you don't have good cardio, just listen to yourself when you get tired and kind of stop and maybe go again some later, but you're going to get tired very fast. And my last piece of advice would be kind to yourself. You've survived probably the greatest traumatic event that the world has seen in our lifetimes, and you lived through it. Anything beyond that is unnecessary. You are going to get back to whacking, but you need to be nice to yourself and kind to yourself while you do that. So you did it, but like to keep going, forgive yourself, be kind to you, because you did it and you deserve it.
You're such a wholesome being. I appreciate you, buddy.
It's
It's just such good advice.
Yeah, I actually threw my back out in January.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah,
Don't throw
all
your back
because
out
I
like Will did.
slipped. I
That's the
slipped.
worst. It wasn't even in fighting. Oh,
That's
It was the
worst.
same. It was the same thing that happened to me at like where I slipped in the mud.
Yep.
Same injury. I slipped and tried to keep myself upright and couldn't walk for like 4 days.
so what that's telling you is to just accept the gravity and
Just
just fall.
Yeah, but I'm getting I got a lot of miles though, so when I fall I don't just pop back up anymore, you know.
buddy.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
like, dude,
stay there for a minute.
yeah.
I don't have anything to really add. I think that's all excellent advice. Check out Cato's panel specifically about avoiding injuries. Be kind yourself, warm up, stretch.
Yeah,
See a doctor.
Maybe like
if
yes, see a
it gets-
doctor if you
it
need
gets
it.
so bad. Like I'm seeing a spinal expert, or I saw a spinal expert this month and found out that there is actually a problem with my spine, which I've been nursing this issue for, I don't know, 5 years. So like if the issues that you're dealing with are chronic, chances are that there's something actually connected to it, and a doctor will either find whether or not that's the case and have a treatment plan based on that. I realize that because the world we live in is terrible, it's very difficult to go through all that, and you might not have health care. But as best you can, see a professional about something that becomes chronic, like my back having a fucking hole in it.
I
Not
am so
really, not
sorry.
actually. There's just a very small gap in my spine.
Yeah, like I mean recently I've been doing a lot of like stuff with a foam roller, like
Mhm.
lacrosse balls, like
Mhm.
just get that, like especially if you have like a sedentary job, you've been working from home,
Oh yeah.
you know, like, you know, loosen up those IT bands, your glutes, like, because all that stuff's gonna pull on your back.
Mhm.
And you definitely don't want to wreck yourself like I did, especially slipping and doing something stupid and silly and small and wrecking yourself.
Yeah, my PT said I had the tightest IT band she has ever felt in her life.
Whew.
So awards for Nate.
Yeah, that's not good.
You could play your
You should
IT
not.
bands like a bass.
Yeah. hang a car on that bad boy.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
I don't see any other ones, so
I
it's
don't either.
4:30 Eastern. So I'm gonna take this to close it out. And
Yeah.
Again, thank you for for the four of you to come and speak. I mean, I I enjoyed it. It seemed like everybody in the chat enjoyed it. Hopefully people who watch the video will enjoy it. So, Tyriel, Kai, Fyxe, Bleys, thank you very, very, very much for helping me do this. I think we had probably close to 20 plus people in the Zoom call at one point in time. So I think, this was great.
Awesome.
Thank you again to Denkri for doing recording. She's gonna work on editing and helping me, be co-host for this. Thank you everyone who came and watched and asked questions, whether it was asked a question here in chat or sent one to me beforehand or posted one like on Fyxe's wall
Appreciate
or anything
you.
like that. So thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for
GG,
having us.
everybody.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Fuzz.
organizing this, Fuzz.
Oh, no
Yeah.
For
problem.
having us. Thank you for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
I look forward to future wax. Goodbye, friends.
Yeah.